Hi everyone. My name is Mary, I'm 34 years old, and what I'm about to share still makes my heart race every time I think about it. It's a story about betrayal, guilt, and revenge, not from a stranger or an enemy, but from the two people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. My parents. You see, I paid my parents $700 a week, not out of obligation, but out of love. They didn't need to ask, I offered it. They helped with my son after my husband passed away. I thought I was supporting them as a way to say thank you. But what they did to me in return, it shattered something inside me. And when I found out why they skipped my little boy's birthday, I knew I couldn't just forgive them. So, I decided to do something that made them regret underestimating me forever. Let me start from the beginning. After my husband Ethan died in a construction accident 3 years ago, I was left with a 5-year-old son, Liam, and a pile of bills I could barely keep up with. I worked full-time as a medical billing specialist, often from home, but balancing grief, work, and motherhood felt like walking on a tightrope. My parents, Linda and George, stepped in like heroes. They said, "Don't worry, sweetheart. We'll help with Liam. You just focus on keeping your life steady." I was so grateful. They picked Liam up from daycare, made dinner sometimes, and even stayed overnight if I had late deadlines. They were my rock, at least, I thought so. To make sure they didn't feel taken advantage of, I offered to pay them $700 every week. It was more than fair, considering I didn't want to owe them anything emotionally. I told them, "You guys deserve this. It's for gas, groceries, whatever you need." They resisted at first, but eventually took it, smiling. Mom even said, "Honey, we don't do this for the money, but it'll help with the bills." Thank you. I thought everything was perfect. Until the cracks started showing. It started small, little things I brushed off. Mom would sometimes cancel watching Liam last minute because she had plans. Or Dad would say, "We're kind of tight this week, can you pay early?" Even though I was always on time. I didn't think much of it. I was tired, grieving, and honestly, just trying to survive. Then one day, I got off work early and drove to their house to surprise them, and what I saw through the window made my heart sink. They were hosting a barbecue. Dozens of people laughing, eating, music blasting. But here's the kicker, among those guests was my younger sister, Rachel, and her husband, Matt. Now, Rachel and I hadn't been on great terms. She always thought I was the favorite, the responsible one, the one who got more help. And my parents? They fed that narrative, always comparing her to me. When I walked up to the fence, Rachel gave me a smug little smirk and said, "Oh, hey, didn't expect to see you here. Mom said you were busy." Busy? I looked at my parents, smiling nervously. Mom mumbled, "Oh sweetheart, it was last minute, just a neighborhood thing." A last-minute barbecue? With party decorations and a catered setup? Something didn't sit right. But I didn't want to make a scene. So I smiled tightly and left. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I felt used. Fast forward a few weeks, it was Liam's 6th birthday. I had been planning his little party for months. Nothing fancy, just balloons, cake, and his favorite superhero theme. I told my parents weeks in advance. They even promised to bring his favorite strawberry cake and a big gift. But the day came. And they didn't show up. At first, I thought maybe they were running late. I called. No answer. Texted. Nothing. Hours passed. Liam kept looking at the door, asking, "Is Grandma coming soon?" I lied and said, "Yes, sweetie, they're probably stuck in traffic." But deep down, I knew something was wrong. When the party ended, I drove to their house, furious, humiliated, heartbroken for my little boy. And there, in their driveway, were 2 cars I recognized. Rachel's and Matt's. I knocked hard. Mom opened the door, startled. Behind her, the sound of clinking glasses and laughter echoed. Another party. I demanded, where were you? You missed Liam's birthday. She froze. Then sighed, like I was the problem. Oh Mary, we had something planned with Rachel and Matt. It slipped our mind. You know how busy we've been. It slipped your mind? I repeated. My voice shook. Dad came over, holding a drink. Don't overreact. He's just a kid, he'll have more birthdays. Just a kid. I felt something inside me snap. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept hearing my dad's voice. He's just a kid. The next day, I called Rachel. She answered with a casual tone, Hey sis, everything okay? I asked her directly, Did Mom and Dad go to your house yesterday? A pause. Then a soft chuckle. Oh, yeah. We had a little gathering for Matt's promotion. They didn't tell you? Promotion. So that's why they skipped my son's birthday, to celebrate Matt's job. But Rachel wasn't done twisting the knife. Mom said you've been really tight lately, she said. She told me you might stop helping them financially, so she wanted to make sure they knew we're here for them too. Stop helping them? I never said that. So Mom was lying to Rachel, painting me as selfish while pocketing my $700 every week. And then Rachel dropped the real bomb. They said they were using your payments to help me and Matt catch up on our mortgage. I almost dropped the phone. My money, my son's future, was being funneled into Rachel's life. I hung up and sat in silence. My hands were shaking. All that time, I thought I was helping my parents survive. But they were funding my sister's luxury lifestyle. That's when the revenge plans started forming. I didn't confront them right away. I acted normal. Paid them as usual. Smiled. Chatted. Pretended everything was fine. But behind the scenes, I was documenting everything. I started paying through bank transfers instead of cash. I wrote childcare payment in the memo line each week. I saved every text, every voicemail. I even recorded one conversation where Dad thanked me for keeping the payment steady. Meanwhile, I quietly looked for another babysitter, my neighbor's retired mom, Mrs. Jacobs. Sweet lady. Loved kids. Charged half of what my parents did. Once I found her, I stopped paying my parents. But I didn't tell them immediately. I wanted them to notice first. 2 weeks later, Mom called. Sweetheart, I didn't see the transfer come through, she said lightly. Maybe the app glitched? I said, no glitch, Mom. I stopped the payments. Silence. Then Dad's angry voice in the background, what do you mean, stopped? I said calmly, you were supposed to use that money for Liam's care, not Rachel's mortgage. I know everything. Mom gasped. Mary, you don't understand, Rachel was struggling. I don't care, I cut her off. You lied to me. You took from your grandson. Dad yelled, don't talk to your mother like that. But I was done. I said, you both skipped Liam's birthday for a promotion party. You betrayed me. I'm cutting you off, for good. And I hung up. For days, they tried guilt-tripping me with messages about family and forgiveness. But I ignored them. I thought that would be enough. Until they decided to fight back. A month later, I received a letter from a lawyer. My parents were suing me for unpaid caregiver wages. They claimed I had an oral contract to pay them $700 weekly for childcare services, and I breached the agreement. I couldn't believe it. They were suing their own daughter. But what they didn't know was that I had planned for this. I gathered every bank statement, message, and recording. Every piece of proof showing I paid regularly, labeling it as childcare payment. That it was voluntary, not contractual. And I found something even juicier. Rachel had posted a photo months ago, her and Matt at a resort, captioned, "Thanks Mom and Dad for making this possible." with the date tagged, during the exact time I had paid them extra for emergency daycare. It was the final nail in their coffin. The day of the hearing came. They arrived all smug, holding hands, whispering with Rachel in the hallway. They truly thought they'd win and humiliate me. But when my turn came, my lawyer stood and calmly played the recording. My father's voice echoed through the room. "Thanks for keeping the payments steady, Mary. Well, make sure Rachel gets caught up. You're a good sister." The courtroom went silent. The judge leaned forward. "So this money wasn't for professional services, it was familial assistance?" My lawyer nodded. "Correct, Your Honor. And the funds were misused." The judge dismissed their claim within minutes. But that wasn't the end. The judge looked straight at my parents and said, "Be grateful your daughter isn't pressing charges for fraud." Their faces turned ghost white. Rachel bolted from the courtroom in tears. Mom wouldn't look at me. Dad mumbled something about misunderstanding before walking out. I stood there, trembling but victorious. I had my revenge, not through screaming or fighting, but through truth. After that day, my parents were humiliated. The community they lived in, the same one they'd hosted endless parties for, started whispering. People found out they'd tried to sue their own daughter over money she gave them willingly. They stopped getting invites. Friends distanced themselves. Rachel tried to contact me, saying, "You ruined our family." I replied, "No, Rachel. I just stopped letting them ruin mine." Months passed. Liam asked about Grandma sometimes, but I told him gently, "They made some bad choices, honey. Maybe one day they'll say sorry." We built a new routine, peaceful, happy, honest. No manipulation. No guilt. And every time I transfer money to my savings now, I smile. Because that's Liam's future, not someone else's mortgage. About a year later, I got a handwritten letter in the mail. From my mother. It read, "Mary, I don't expect forgiveness. Your father and I lost ourselves somewhere between pride and fear. We thought we were helping everyone, but we hurt you most. Please know, I watch your photos online, and Liam looks happy. Take care of him, and yourself. Love, Mom." I read it once. Then again. And I cried. Not because I missed them, but because it was the first time she had ever admitted she was wrong. I didn't respond. Some wounds don't need reopening, they just need peace. Now, every year on Liam's birthday, I make it a tradition. We donate $700 to a children's foundation, exactly the amount I used to pay my parents. Liam doesn't know the full story yet, but one day he will. And when he does, I'll tell him this. Never let people guilt you into paying for their loyalty. Real love doesn't come with a price tag. That's my revenge, not just against my parents, but against the version of myself who thought love meant sacrifice. I rebuilt my life from betrayal. And this time, no one's getting a free ride on my heart or my wallet. Sometimes, I still wonder if my parents regret it. If they sit in their quiet house, thinking about the day they chose money over family. But I've learned something powerful. Revenge doesn't always mean destroying others. Sometimes, it's just refusing to be destroyed. So yes. I paid my parents $700 a week. They skipped my child's birthday. And when I asked why, I got an answer that broke me. But in the end, that betrayal became my freedom.